Hey T babies, Mama T here, bringing something good for y'all, something deep, something special, something very personal. So let's get to it. I decided that I was going to share my testimony with you guys of how I came to know Jesus, how he saved me. But before I start, I want to let you guys know something in advance. I will be mentioning my mom in this video. And I also want to let you know that she is not the same woman that she was back then when I was a child. The woman that I'm going to talk about in the first part of this video is not who she is today. We have a relationship. So I wanted to let you guys know that before I got started. So that way I don't have nobody mean mugging and looking crazy about my mama, because I'm sure some family is going to watch this and they're going to be looking all cross-eyed. But my testimony, my story. So anyhow, my earliest memory is when I got raped when I was 5 years old, and I didn't remember until well into my marriage. And from about 5 until 16, there was molestation on and off. I got raped again when I was 16 by a boyfriend that I went to school with. Lots of emotional abuse. Some, I got my ass whooped like most kids did back then. But if it was really compared to what should and should not be done nowadays, it would be considered abuse, and that's not cool. So suffice it to say that I was abused when I was a kid. You know how you go get the switch off the tree because mama or grandma told you go get a switch off that tree outside, and you just go get a switch off the tree, that type of thing. Belts, whatever could be thrown was thrown. My kids, they learned how to bob and weave real good because they I inherited some of those things, especially throwing stuff, which really was me not wanting to get up and deal with the situation, but letting them know that they were in trouble somehow. So anyhow, I want to tell you guys a story. And it's a story about a guy I met when I was 12 years old. My grandma used to take us to the swimming pool every Saturday when I was a child. And we'd go swimming and just have a good old time. And at that time, I wasn't trying to have no boyfriend. I wasn't trying to do none of that, because it just wasn't where my head was. But anyways, we went to the pool, and this boy came over to me, and he was like, yeah, my friend over there thinks you're cute and he wants to talk to you. I said, you know what, then tell him to bring his butt over here and come talk to me. All this sending you to do his work, that don't work for me. If he want to get to know me, he need to come and get to know me. So he came over. He was really kind of shy, soft-spoken kind. I was quite the opposite, a little shy on my part, but definitely not soft-spoken. Yeah, in fact, I did a lot of talking back, being sarcastic, all of that. Anyways, he came over and we talked and we got to know each other. We hit it off. We were hanging out, spending a lot of time. Like, this boy would walk. He would walk, oh my gosh, miles to come and see me. Eventually he got a bike, but he would walk miles to come and see me. And then he met my mom and my grandma and everybody. Everybody seemed to like him, so it was okay. So after about a year, I think about a year, my grandmother had made mention, not to me, which I thought would have been weird anyway, that me and him kind of looked alike. And I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe. There's a lot of people that actually look alike that are not related. So at this point in time, I had been asking my mom to help me find my dad. And so we had located him through a cousin and found out where he was living and sent him like all these pictures of me from when I was a baby until the age I was at that time. My boyfriend was telling me how he was going to go and see his dad. And so I was like, all right, cool. So you'll be gone for a couple of weeks. I'll see you when you get back, yada, yada. So one day I got a phone call. We were getting ready to leave to go shopping. And the voice on the other end of the phone said, is this T? I'm like, yes. And he said, oh, I'm your dad. Well, how do I know you, my daddy? Well, I got your pictures. And I'm like, oh, well, that was like a dead giveaway that it was him, because he was the only one I sent pictures to. He said, but I have to ask you something. I said, okay. He said, do you know this boy? He told me his name. And I was like, yeah, how do you know him? And he goes, well, he's my son. I said, rewind. I said, what you mean? he your son? He's like, yeah. He said, he's my son. And I'm like, no, I need proof. Like, I don't know what kind of proof you're going to actually get over the phone, but I'm like, I need proof. And he was like, well, I was sitting here looking at the pictures, and I had them all spread out on the table. And he goes, hey, I know her. And he was like, really? And my dad was like, well, how do you know her? And he was like, that's my girlfriend. And he was just like, wait, what? So like this whole dialogue transpired between them, and turns out that he is my brother. He's my half brother. So we dated for like a year and something, only to find out that he was my brother. Okay, so like we didn't do anything freaky, I don't think. We probably did, but I know that he was my first kiss. And so needless to say, this was like a serious, it was serious. I mean, how do you process something like that at 12 years old? But see, if I hadn't been dating at 12 years old, never would have happened. But anyway, I know that don't just happen to everybody. I don't know, y'all better go back and check y'all history. Y'all better get on Ancestry.com and be checking out who your family is. Especially when you know, when you have a daddy that's out there like that. So anyhow, my grandmother, she was like, I knew y'all was related. Really, Grandma? You couldn't have gave me more information than that? So he stopped coming up to the house after a while, because every time we were together, my grandmother was like, what y'all doing? What y'all doing around that corner? You know, that type of thing. And it made it difficult to talk about it, so we never talked about it. I didn't see him again until shortly after I met my father. That's when I saw him again, which was kind of weird at the time. And he had moved on, got married, had children of his own. That was like a huge story. But between the time I was 5 and between that point, there was just a lot going on, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of brokenness, a lot of emptiness. I was about 15 the first time I thought about killing myself. And you know, I can't really say if it was for attention or if I was legit, because I never got to the point where I could actually follow through. And because me and my mom had such a terrible, terrible relationship, there was like no communication, no getting along, no nothing. A lot of negative things that were said. So I got to a point with my mom where I hated her. I couldn't stand who she was. I couldn't stand breathing the same air that she breathed. And I was going to kill her. I was going to commit meditated, on purpose murder. That was my plan. I worked at Burger King, and there was a manager there. And he bugged me and bugged me and bugged me about going to church with him. I'm like, okay, first of all, the church I grew up in was a Baptist church, and it was in the hood, and it was all black folks. Okay, so you coming to me talking about coming to church with you, and I'm like, no. First of all, I'm not racist, so I don't want to hear none of that. Okay, but he was a white man, and I could only picture in my head what church was like for him. And so several times I'm like, no, 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 no. Finally, I said, if I go, will you leave me alone? And he was like, yeah, I'll leave you alone, I'll leave you alone. And the crazy thing about that is, like, I almost had sex with this guy. Like, I was very promiscuous after I got raped. And then I got raped again when I was 16. A lot of molestation in between there. So I was promiscuous, not really having sex, but being sexual. And so I was pretty sexual with this guy, but he invited me to his church, and I'm like, is that hypocritical? What is that? Oh, by the way, I will be munching on these while I'm doing this video. But I'm like, okay, if you leave me alone, I'll go. I promise. And I had my own car. I was 17 at the time. And so I went to the church, and that was the first time that I had ever heard the message about the love of Jesus. I mean, like, for real, for real. Not like none of this. You go to church, everybody hooping and hollering, carrying on, and then you have an altar call, and you be a member of the church, and then it's good. No, I'm talking about bona fide, genuine salvation. Okay, maybe that's not a good idea. I got stuff in my teeth. Give me a second. Okay, we won't be munching on these. I got like hella gummy stuff in my teeth. So, but yeah, it was genuine, bona fide salvation. And it touched my heart to the point where I'm like, you know what? I ain't gonna dive in just yet. I need to like come back next week. So I went back the following week, and you know, the message was the same, the presence of the Lord was the same, it was like all the same. And I'm like, you know what, this is different. This is different than anything I've ever known or ever experienced in my life. This is like a love that is deeper than and higher than and wider than whatever you can conjure up in your head. And so I gave my life to Jesus. I gave my life to him, and I asked him in my heart, and he became my Lord and Savior. And I had this crazy zeal, this crazy enthusiasm, like this crazy peace. Had never known peace my whole life. Had peace. The peace that surpasses all understanding is real. Believe me when I tell you, it's real. And it was like the Holy Spirit just wrapped himself around me, and he just loved on me, and it was amazing. So now I'm thinking about changing churches. Of course, that caused some drama. And like, are you going to them white people church and da-da-da-da-da? And like, some of my family thought I had joined a cult. Like, it got crazy real. And I'm just like, wow. But you know, I'm that person that steps out and does stuff. Not all the time, because, you know, believe it or not, I'm actually more shy than I am outspoken. Unless I have something to say or something is really burdening and pressing on my soul, then I'll speak up. They had a problem with me switching churches, and you know, I didn't care. I just didn't care. I just needed something different. I needed something constant, and I needed something deeper, like deeper. So as I started going to that church, I just always look back on this, and I think it's crazy because I was going to take a life, and I didn't have to take a life because Jesus gave his life. And I'm like, wow, I was actually going to do that. And I didn't care. I didn't care about spending the rest of my life in prison, because the way I looked at it is there was nothing going for me as it was. And so, you know, one of the things about getting saved and giving my life to Christ was having to learn and understand what it meant to live as a believer. And, you know, I learned a lot of rules and a lot of, what's the word? Okay, I can't think of the word right off the top of my head. But a lot of rules. And God sets boundaries for us, but he doesn't lock us in law. And so I didn't learn all of that till I got much, much older. But it was okay for the time being to stay inside of the rules, because it kind of helped me to grow. And so I dropped out of school when I was turned 18. Actually, yeah, right after I turned 18, because I was just done. I didn't feel like I had a reason to continue to go to school. Like, I had this burning fire of Christ in my spirit, but I didn't know what to do with it. You know, I just didn't know. So, I dropped out of school, and then I left home when I turned 18. Just took all my stuff, and I just like snuck out the house. And like, nobody knew I was leaving but my little brother. And to this day, I firmly, sincerely regret having left him like that, because we were really close. And, you know, after I left home, we weren't close anymore. And so that meant not seeing him grow up, not seeing him graduate from high school, not seeing all of his firsts and being a part of that. But I felt like I had to make a decision between my sanity and my relationship with him. And at the time, I chose me. And so I was out there on these streets, all up in and through them streets, trying to figure out how to just be, how to just exist. And I had some friends that let me hang out at their place for a little while, and then it's like, oh, she can't stay here. Blah, blah. You know how people are. And so this couple from church, they actually invited me to come and live with them. And I spoke to the wife, and she's like, yeah, I talked to my husband, and he wanted you to come and stay with us. And I was like, what? Everything in my life had been so negative that I'm like, people don't just do that unless they want something in return. So like, what is it you want in return? And she was like, nothing. She just said, you need a place to stay. and you're coming to the church where we are. I worked in the nursery at the church. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna do that. And so I did, and I stayed with them for 9 months. And actually it's because of her that I went back to school, because she said either you get a job or you go back to school. And I have been so pressed to get a job, get a job, get a job, or you can't do this, get a job or you won't do that, get a job. Like, it was, I don't want a job. And if I do get a job, I want one that I want, not one that's just gonna make some money and just gonna pay the bills or whatever. But you know, I was 18. What did I know about paying bills? So I went back to school, and I went back to school and I graduated straight A's. I graduated on the honor roll. And turns out I wasn't dumb after all, like I had been told most of my life, that I wasn't going to be nothing, I wasn't going to amount to nothing, I was never going to make no money. Like, be careful what you say to your kids. Because what you say to your kids, or anybody around you, but mostly your kids, will have a lasting impact on the people that they believe that they are. Hear me when I tell you. Watch what you say to your kids, because your words are powerful. They mean something. They have life behind them. When you speak good to a person, they get encouraged, they get happy. But when you speak bad to a person, it brings them down. And just, it affects decision making, it affects all of that. So by the time I was still in school, and I moved out of the couple from church, I moved out of their house and went back home. Now at this point in time, I was 19, and I had done a lot of growing up, a lot of understanding of who God was to me. And so I was ready to take on and tackle the whole mama issue. And you know, for the first week it was cool. We was cool in the gang, we was thick as thieves, it was tight. And you know, it didn't take long for true colors to start showing. And also didn't take long for me to start feeling discouraged. So then it got to a point where, you know, she said, if you don't get a job, you have to leave in 2 weeks. So I had a mentor that I love dearly. She's such a blessing to me. She was helping me look for a job. I was looking for a job. And it was just like all of this trying to hurry up and do stuff. What I really wanted to do was continue school and be a teacher. And I wanted to teach senior high English. But that didn't happen because I needed to get a job and all this other stuff was going on. So, didn't find a job. I left after 2 weeks, so then I was homeless again. I stayed with my mentor for a little while, and then I actually finally did get a job delivering newspapers, which is where I met my now ex-husband. Don't do like I did, okay? When I met my ex-husband, he was already married. The worst decision I made. I've got 4 amazing children who have their own trials and tests in life. But man, if he ain't yours, leave his ass alone. Like, for real. Oh my gosh, we went through so much. And I was young, and he was 11 years my senior. And, you know, he had experience that I didn't have. So I have to say, he was really patient with me, like super patient with me. Because, you know, I was mouth all day long with the mouth, you know, fussing, cussing. You know, then we got pregnant with my first daughter, and that did not help anything. Pregnancy hormones, whew, Lord have mercy. And so we had our first daughter, and he was like, well, I'm going back home. I'm going to take her back home to see my family. And I really didn't want him to, because, you know, I'm a new mom. We're like new parents. But him being older than me, I think he kind of slid into the role a little bit easier than I did. He had some experience where I had none. But he took our oldest daughter back home to see his family. And I was like, in 3 months, I'm going to come and get her. And so he was like, okay. So in those 3 months, I went and got her. But I was also pregnant with our second child. And you think I had learned, right? I hadn't learned. Because even as much as I had learned about God, I still hadn't understood the depth of God and what he wanted from me. And sometimes I still don't know what he wants from me. But I'm certain about one thing. He wants me to be authentic. He wants me to be honest. He wants me to be real. Whatever it is, he wants me to communicate with him honestly. He like honesty, like straight up transparency. And I had to learn to be transparent. It didn't come overnight. But I wanted so much to have friends and so much to be liked and so much to be loved that I would do anything, including being a people pleaser. That's a bad idea too. People pleasing is not good because it gets you caught in a trap, and you never learn to take care of you. So this is a long story that I'm going to make as short as possible while giving y'all as much meat as I can. Because I mean, this story started from when I was 5 and now I'm 47 years old. So that's a lot of story in between. If we got married in 1999, and I met him in 93, I believe. Nope. Shit. I graduated in 92. And then I met him. So it was like 92 or 93. And after we got married, we stayed married until 2006. And not 2006, I'm sorry. When the hell did we get divorced? Huh? No, it was 2016. It was July. You know, things started falling apart years before we got married, or years before we got divorced, because he had some anger problems, and he took his anger out on me, on the kids. He wasn't physical with me. You know, I had to threaten him one time when he raised his hand at me when our oldest child was only about 5 or 6 months old. So I had to go ahead and put that in check, because that wasn't happening, and I just wasn't having none of it. But, you know, I found out later on that, you know, it's not just physical abuse. It's like emotional, it's like mental. And so with him, it was more mental than anything. Getting stuck in needing to please him so he don't leave. Needing to do things right so he don't leave. Like all that. Woo, Lord have mercy. It's such a dangerous place to be. It's such it just tears you down. And so it's like, I had to relearn everything to be a woman, not to be a woman because I am a woman, but to operate as a woman, an individual, and not so much as a group. Because I mean, we had 4 children, so we were a large family, and for a long time that's what it was. Because I homeschooled my kids for 5 years because I didn't like the school systems. And they got bullied in school just like I got bullied in school. And so I just was having none of it. I'm like, I'd rather homeschool you guys than go up there and have to go to jail because I beat the hell out of somebody. So that was in our best interest if they still wanted a mama around, because I got into the point where I was over it. I was done. I'm like, you know what, y'all gonna make me show my natural bone, truest, absolute colors, and they are black. So with that being said, it was just me and the kids for a lot. I mean, my ex-husband worked and he took care of us, and he was a very good provider financially. It was those other things that the children needed, other things that I felt like I was losing having been married. I loved being married. When it was good, it was good. When it wasn't good, it wasn't good. So we finally separated, and things were pretty rough, man, because he was the breadwinner. And so let's see, my 2 oldest daughters, they were grown already, and I actually had a granddaughter by that time, which I'm gonna tell y'all that story another time, because that's something that needs to be shared. But and then it was my son. He was 17 at the time, and then my youngest baby, y'all know her as Bella Savage. She was, how old were you then?
When you guys got divorced?
When we had to move out of the apartment.
I was 13.
So she was 13. So yeah, that's right, because there's 4 years between you. Okay. Mm-hmm. She was 13 and my son was 17. So that meant I had to figure out where they were going to live and all of that. I had no idea. The landlord blessed us to be able to stay through Christmas of 2015, and after that we had to leave. As soon like January 1st came around, and January 2nd came around, and we were out. Like, so Bella Savage, she had this friend who said that we could put our stuff in her garage. Her mom said that. And I'm like, oh my God, that's such a blessing. That's so cool, because I don't have nowhere to put all our stuff. Like, we had like tables and chairs and couches, and you know, we didn't live in no big old apartment, but it was fully furnished. And we just had a lot of stuff. So we put all of our stuff in her garage, and then I stayed there for, it was about a week that I was there, because I went and checked myself into a hospital because I was mentally gone. And I'm like, there's no way I can, in this state of mind, take care of my children. So I checked myself in. I was in there for a little bit. And she took care of my son and Miss Bella Savage. When I finally did get out, I had to check into Salvation Army and live in the shelter. My oldest daughter, she was in town, and so she was trying to help me out as much as she could. But it was like, I didn't know what was what. I couldn't go to my mom's because she wasn't having it. And so, you know, these moms and these dads, I'm just going to speak. I've been speaking from story, but I'm going to speak this from my heart. Your kids are not ready to leave home when they turn 18. They really are not. And I wished I had been more mindful of that when my two oldest daughters had turned 18. It was always, oh, I can't wait till you get grown so you can leave. And they like, oh, I can't wait till I get grown so I can leave. For what? There ain't shit out there for them at 18 years old. That's when they need to learn how to be an adult. That's where we come in. We're supposed to teach them to be an adult. And I failed that part of their life. And so I don't want to fail that part of Bella Savage's life, because it's just not, it's not conducive to her having a successful future. And I don't mean just money success. There's more success than just money. I'm talking about her relationships, her own love for herself, her growth as an individual, as a woman, and someday, if Jesus tarries, as a mother. And so it has to be right. I have to do right by at least one of my children when it comes to their adulthood. So anyways, we were out there on them streets. And then I went to go get my children from this lady's house. And we were trying to discuss when we get our stuff. And I said, when I have a place to put it, I'll let you know. I went to go and get my kids, and she had like a whole fit because I wouldn't leave her my food stamp card. What? Lady, we were getting $700 in food stamps at the time. I gave her my entire card. She could feed her whole family. I only had 2 kids with her, but she could feed her whole family however she needed to. But the next month, when I came and got them, like, she wasn't getting that. And do you know, I'm going to be nice. This woman would not give me my stuff out of her garage. She lied to the cops and said her stuff ain't in our garage. Okay, but her boyfriend was like, yeah, her stuff's in the garage. I'm like, oh my God. See, she trying to be the devil, and she getting told on is what happened. So we end up not getting our stuff. And at the time, I really didn't have anywhere to put it. And since me and my mom still weren't talking or anything, there was no taking it over to her house and putting it in the garage. Yeah, we just we bounced around. We moved around. Like, for a little while, it was me and my son and Bella. And then it was me and Bella and my oldest daughter. And then it was always me and Bella. Because she'd been there since the get. And, and so it was always me and her and 1 or 2 of my other children. And so, you know, we end up staying at a friend's house who was actually the mom of one of my daughter's boyfriends. They weren't together at that time, but we still didn't know. We knew who she was. And she let us move in with her. And it was such a blessing. Like, you know, sometimes people don't have to have the best of whatever. But her heart, she has got the most tender heart. And she let me and my oldest daughter and Bella Savage move in with her. And we stayed there for a year. I think we were there for almost a whole year. Because we left and came back to where we live now in June of 2016. Yeah, something like that. And so, yeah, the same year I got a divorce. It was the same year that we left and came back here. Being homeless sucks. Let me just tell you, it really, like, you know, some people have that attitude of, well, I ain't giving this person no money. I see them all the time. Being not homeless doesn't happen overnight. Unless you got somebody that's about to be in your corner, unless you got somebody that's about to put you up, somebody that's about to, like, throw a bill at you every now and again, it just don't happen overnight. It's a whole process of going from one place to the next. But unfortunately, it's unfortunate and it is fortunate how me and Bella Savage ended up not being on the street, and because she was raped by a guy that I worked with, that I thought he had our back, but he didn't have our back. In fact, the only back he wanted was hers. And so, you know, it was by the grace of God, because when I found out, I wasn't at the house, because if I had been there, I would have killed him, dead ass. I would have straight effed him up, because I'm like, I trusted you. I put my well-being and my daughter's well-being in your hands, and this is what you do. He ended up getting arrested and that whole thing, going to court, blah blah blah. But because she was sexually assaulted, it caused us to be put into the victims compensation program, and they actually paid for and provided for us a place to stay for a month. And then after that, right when we were coming down to the end of that time, I ran into a former friend of mine in Walmart, and she's like, oh yeah, I still have my condo. And I'm like, yes. It was such a godsend, such a godsend. So that's what I'm saying. Unless you got somebody there that's just gonna, as one of my daughters of the heart says, put you on, then it doesn't happen overnight. So you all be a little more patient with the people that y'all see on the street, because not all of them have drug problems. Not all of them just want to be homeless. I mean, I met a couple people that wanted to be homeless. Like, you do you, baby. But you know, some of them really have, it's just hard. It's just hard. And if you ain't never been there, you ain't got nothing to say. So just shut it down. So anyways, we've been living where we are for about 2.5 years, and now we are required to move in a month or so, which sucks because we don't have anywhere to go. So, but you know what? God's going to take care of us. The same way he did when we were out there on them streets is the same way he's going to take care of us after this. And so there's just been a lot of building and growing and healing from the emotional damage, from the physical damage. I mean, it's just been so much. There's so much I didn't tell you guys, because it would just be so long of a video. I mean, there are details that I left out. Like, it would take me about 2 hours to really get into the whole of my story. But I really wanted to share that God is able. And it seems so blasé, cliche, when we think about, yeah, God got you, God gonna take care of it, God this, God that. You got, first of all, I was gonna say you gotta have the faith, but sometimes we just don't have the faith. Other people do for us, and you know, we kind of grab onto their faith and we just roll with it, you know. But he does, he takes care of it. And the truth, God will give you peace in the middle of your storm. Like, you know, in a tornado, I've never been in a tornado, thank God. But how it's still in the middle of a tornado, at least that's what I've heard, because I've never experienced it. It's the same type of thing. He will give you peace right smack dab in the middle of your stuff. But you got to trust him and give you that peace. And you got to call on him. Jesus is my Savior. Jesus, I'm working on making him my Lord still. After all this time, I still don't think he's quite Lord, because there are some things that I'm working on. But you know, I think it all comes in time, because he said he would perfect love in my heart, because he is perfect love. And so he kept me. He kept me, because I can't even think about how many times I wanted to just not be here, not live in this world. Sometimes I felt that way and I wanted to commit suicide. Other times I felt that way. I just wanted to die. I just wanted to go and be with my grandmother and be with my aunt, you know, people that I miss. And so, but he keeps keeping me. And he keeps doing good. Even when it don't look good or it don't feel good. He keeps doing good. And so, I've gotten mad at God. I'm like, Lord, how you just gonna blah, 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 blah? Because he's my friend. He said I was his friend. So I talked to him like he's one of my friends. And so we have that understanding. You know what I'm saying? Y'all should give him a try. You should give him a try. Because he kept me from going to jail. He's kept me from hurting other people, from killing other people, from beating the hell out of my kids sometimes when they became too much. Like all these little things I think we take for granted. He has kept me. He has kept us not having to sleep on the literal streets. But we've been out there. We've been slept in cars, hotel hopped, you name it. He kept me. In the middle of all of that running around we did and moving around, I had peace through all of it. It was crazy. The craziest thing. And there ain't nothing in this world that can compare to it. Like seriously. We done slept on the floor of people's houses. And, I ain't no little tiny girl. And as I've gotten older, body starts to hurt more. I have a back injury, my knees, all of that. And I just had surgery on my foot a year ago. But even through all of that, he kept me. And he kept me at perfect peace. And you can't find nothing to compare to God's peace. And his joy, unspeakable and full of his glory, not the joy that the world gives. That's not even joy. I just think that's happiness. Because happiness is trivial. But I'm talking about joy. I think joy and peace go hand in hand sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you can be sad but still have peace. But man, joy is something altogether different. Bella says my video should be longer, and I want to make it longer. But there are a lot of details that I had to leave out because I don't really like throwing people under the bus like that. I think it's unnecessary, especially when you live a life and work on forgiving and moving forward and that type of thing. But I do want to say this. My mom and I, we are better. We talk more. We clown together. We have a good time when we're together. I don't expect her to be perfect, as I am not perfect. She's done a lot of growing and a lot of changing. I'm so proud of her. So incredibly proud of her. She's done an amazing job. And she trusts Jesus with her whole heart. We are doing good. We have a great relationship. There are other members of my family I wish I was closer to. As far as my dad goes, I don't see him or talk to him. I'm about my life being positive. And every day ain't positive, because I'd be lying if I said it was, because I deal with depression. So every day is not positive. But the people around me, I don't need them dumping no negativity on me. I get it, people go through stuff, and I am a listening ear if you're going through something. But just to be negative and drop your negative BS on me, like, I don't have time for that. I ain't got room for that. I ain't got the mind for that. None of that. And so I don't talk to my father. I haven't seen any of my siblings on his side for years and years and years. And it's okay. It's what it is. And there are like so many more details to even that I'm not going to mention, because that would mean throwing some people underneath the bus or two. And I don't want to do that. It's not in my heart to do. Because my purpose of this video is not to expose people or to put business out there. Like, that's not the purpose of my video. The purpose of this video was to share some of my heartaches, some of my downtime, some of all of that, and tell y'all how great Jesus is and how he saved me. And I'm glad he saved me, because the very mom that I love to this day, she would not be here. So yeah, that's the short version of a very long story. And who knows, maybe some will cross my heart and I'll be like, you know what, I need to tell my people, I need to tell all the T-babies about that. I need to let all the T-babies know that this has been on my mind and this has been on my heart, and come on back with a video for y'all. And it may be like 5 minutes long, but I don't think anybody cares. The juicy stuff, the good stuff, the deep stuff, that's the best stuff. But my desire is to be authentic with you guys. So I guess with that being said, you guys have a beautiful day, and do right by people, and learn to love people and appreciate and accept people for the way that they are. Don't be judgmental and hating. And I can't even say that I don't be judgmental, because that's one of the biggest struggles that I've had in my life. And if I'm not careful, I fall right back into it, because God knows I done had my share of talking about people, still do. Me and Bella always be like, Mom, like, we need to stop doing that. Even whether we watching TV, whether we go, it's sad. It's really sad. Like, it really is. And sometimes I feel like really bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, please help me to not just shut it down. And so sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's what it is. I'm being honest. So where am I now? Currently, right now. Oh, child. I have been going to therapy and having to talk about the hard stuff the stuff that I have repressed all these years in order to survive. It's not good to repress how you feel, because it catches up to you. And then if you repress long enough like I did, it all catches up to you at one time. And that's is not healthy. It puts you in like emotional, mental overload. But right now, currently, even in the midst of having to move, I am not in the best place emotionally. I have quite a few depressed days where it's hard for me to get out of bed in the morning. You know, and ever since we buried my granddaughter, it's just been harder. Everything just seems so much more difficult because I haven't even got over that. And then my aunt passed away, and she's so freaking cool. Like, it's one of my coolest aunts. And just having to deal with everything at one time. And so I have a lot of days where I feel like I'm not enough. And some days I think about the stuff that was said to me when I was a child, that I'm not ever going to do anything with my life. And that, and then I ask myself, why are you even born? It was asked that of me when I was a child. And I still can't say why. I mean, I had children, I raised them the best way I could, but I don't know why. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, because a lot of times I'm afraid, just having to deal with fear all the time. And I haven't conquered that. In some ways I have conquered that, but in a lot of ways I haven't. I remember my grandmother said to me years ago, because I used to sleep real hard, you know, you're supposed to sleep hard. When you go to sleep, you're supposed to be asleep. And she was trying to wake me up, and I wasn't waking up right away. And she said to me, gosh, I had to have been about maybe 15 years old, 16. She said, if this house was on fire, you wouldn't even wake up and get out of here. And of course, what did that do? It planted a seed in my spirit. And then I was afraid of fire for a very long time. Like, never even been in a fire, thank God. But just afraid of fire, afraid to get burned, afraid to die in it. And then that led to other fears. And then after you've been sexually abused, there are other fears. Always afraid of somebody sneaking up behind me. Like, I tell the guys I work at, don't walk up behind me and startle me and scare me. I will knock you out. And it happened a couple times almost. I almost stabbed a guy's eye out with a pen because he did that. I'm like, I don't be playing when I tell people don't startle me like that, because the results could be bad for you, like for real. And being jumpy and startling easy, those are like definite things, you know. Sometimes when I'm driving, I'm just like thinking about something bad that might happen. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't even go there, because it will paralyze me with fear, and I have to pull the car over. And so I just like, nope, Lord, I'm going to give that to you, and I'm going to thank you for covering us in the blood of Jesus and keeping us safe while we out, because I'm not going there. And just having random panic attacks for no reason. I was taking the kids to school one time, and I had to pull over on the highway because I was having a panic attack. It just came up on me all of a sudden. And the anxiety and wondering how we're going to move, where we're going to live. And, you know, God keeps showing me that he's going to take care of it. And I'm like, but what do I need to do? And so I still don't know what I actually need to do. So it's so much. And then processing who I really am as a woman, as an individual, not as a mom anymore, not as a wife anymore, just as an individual and as a woman, as a black woman. And right now I'm in a very difficult place with myself. And I don't know where the end of this is. I don't know where this part of my journey just comes through with healing and forgiveness and absolute uncompromised love for myself. Like, I felt like I had that at one point, and then it just kind of got washed away with being homeless, and the whole thing, it just like went away. And now I feel like I'm learning to relearn me. What is it I really like? What is it I really don't like? What is it I really want? And setting boundaries, and oh my gosh. There's so much, guys. There's so much. And it's wearisome. It really is. And, you know, I believe for the most part my faith is intact. Maybe not all the time, because, you know, I get mad and irritated and all of that. But I also know that, you know, dealing with depression, that doesn't help anything as far as my faith goes. But for sure, I definitely strive to be a better me. I definitely desire to change. I don't want to stay stuck here. And I think this is the hardest part, is just like, I don't even know. It's just doing. Just get out there and just do it. I don't know how to just get out there and do it. Is there a process to, like, that shit blows my mind. Like, I can't even process what that means. And if I'm not dealing with fear, I'm dealing with rejection and the abandonment from not being nurtured as a child. And it's just like all of these things. And I'm like, oh my God. And it's like one day I want to be married again one day. But then I'm thinking, hell no, I don't be married again. I can do whatever I want to do right now. I can spend my money the way I need to spend my money. I don't have to answer to nobody but Jesus. So no. But then I think on the flip side of that, you know, I miss the companionship. I miss the camaraderie. Just the doing shit together. Just all of that. I miss all of that. So which one weighs the highest? I really don't know. I've had the best of both. And this isn't the first time that, well, I don't live by myself. I live, me and Bella Savage. But, you know, as far as if I had to live by myself, it wouldn't be the first time. Because before I met my ex-husband, I lived by myself. And I love living by myself. So I'm kind of a loner like that. I don't have a whole lot of friends, but the few that I do have are very good friends. And I don't need a whole lot of friends. I don't need a whole lot of people all in my face all the time. Or all in my space all the time. Because it makes me nervous. It puts me on edge. And, you know, I like my quiet time. I like my alone time and things like that. So, but sometimes that quiet alone time gives me time to think. And sometimes thinking is not a good thing for me, because then my head goes to all kind of places. So that's where I am right now, conquering my fears, re-loving myself. It's funny because re-loving myself as I teach my daughters and sons of my heart to love themselves. It's kind of a crazy thing like that. So we're just kind of going through that together. I wished I had that thing that my mom has. She has like this drive where she can just like go, get it done. Did you do this? Did you do that? Like to the point where it gets on my nerves, asking me all these questions. But that's her, like, get out there and do it, you know. She was pretty successful when I was younger. We had everything we wanted. Everything we wanted materialistically. Did not have everything I wanted, but I did have all the material stuff I wanted. And so she just got out there and she just did it. She just made it happen. And I seem to lack that get out there, get it done, make it happen, come up with ideas, you know. And I don't know if that's because I'm a creative mind. I write poetry and I want to learn how to draw. Yeah, that's another. Anyways, you know, being creative like that. So I think I live in this ideal world that's not ideal. In my head it is, though. So, you know, y'all going through it, go through it. Shit, because you can't run from it. You can try to run from it. Okay, you can run for a little while, but guess what? You're going to be running, da-da-da-da-da. It's going to be always creeping up behind you while you're running. It's coming because you can't run from it. You got to confront what you need to confront. You got to deal with what you got to deal with. And it's okay to be in the moment for a minute. My therapist tells me you can live in the moment for a minute, but you can't stay there. You know, sometimes I just want to stay there. I just want to stay there and just decompose. But I can't do that because I got a life to live, even though I don't know where that life is going. So, you know, even at the age I am now, it's okay to be confused. It's okay to be uncertain, because for a long time, I wasn't here. I went from graduating high school, living by myself for a little while, meeting my ex-husband, marrying him, having children. So this whole being single by myself thing, yeah, this is all brand new. It's really brand new. And it has its ups and its downs. So y'all just be good to yourself. And you know what? It's okay to choose you. It is okay to choose you. I'm not talking about no being selfish stuff. I'm not talking about being arrogant. I'm not talking about pride. I'm not talking about none of that. I'm talking about being good to yourself and choosing you, because you matter too, just like I matter. And I'm relearning that I matter. And my therapist says that I need to understand my value and my worth. And we have value and worth in Christ. And so it just seems so far gone. But I'm getting there. A little piece at a time, a little bit at a time, I'm getting there. And if there's anything else I feel like I want to let y'all know as it pertains to my testimony, or if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Please subscribe to my channel, show me a little love, and hit the bing, the bell on the side. It is on that side, right? Okay, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. So that y'all can get some notifications when I post a video, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, and like this video. You know, if it blessed you, cool, tell me about it. If there's something else about my life y'all want a little more detail about, tell me that too. I'll be glad to share. So you all have a beautiful day. And remember, authenticity is boss. Love you guys.